Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. It is a preview of a game coming in the midweek. Basically, our schedule is a little bit ruined because there's 2 games in the space of like 3 days, and the planning that needs to go into it is not planning currently. I am joined by the one, the only, the man, the Danny Welbeck enjoyer. Blessed Chibamba, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. Loving the intro again and enjoying the midweek games, I think, yeah.
Yeah, man. The only thing I don't massively enjoy about it is it's on Amazon Prime for literally no reason. Shout out Amazon though if you do want to sponsor, then obviously hit us up.
You saved it at the end.
Literally hit me up directly if you want, mate. Hit me up. I don't mind any platform. So we have got a preview. We go to Craven Cottage on Thursday. So in the first segment, we're just going to give a little overview. Just some thoughts on how maybe it's going to go. In the second segment, we're going to talk about sort of where their dangers lie, a little bit more about Fulham, and then in the last segment, we're going to talk about the mighty Seagulls and how we think we're going to fare, where we can sort of hurt them, etc. So, Bless, we are going up against the Fulham side, who we have never beaten in the Premier League, if my statistics are correct. What are your sort of thoughts going into it, considering that they have actually had quite a decent season? I think they're sitting bang on 10th. They've got a win. They've only won once in their last 5, but they have had some injury issues. So what are your thoughts going into the game on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had asked me before the Southampton game, I think I'd have probably said I'll take a point because Fulham are a good side and they've started really well. Mm-hmm. But because that performance was so disappointing, I'm looking for us to really bounce back and get 3 points from here. I think that we need to show that we can be consistent even if we're playing against so-called lesser sides. We've obviously done well against big sides, but these lesser sides, I think, is where we're sort of dropping points. So I'm expecting us to really bounce back, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I 100% hear that. It is a game where you do look at it on paper, and I think even potentially, so the big teams like ourselves, we could put ourselves in there now. Yeah. But I think the big teams look at it and sort of think, oh, well, you go into Fulham away, they're sort of... And I have this theory, right, that teams like Fulham, you get the best version of Fulham when a big team goes to Craven Cottage. Whereas I think if someone, no disrespect to them, but Southampton, for example, Ipswich, Wolves, those sort of teams, when they go there, I feel like you don't see the best version of those teams. Do you think with all their injuries that we are going to be seeing sort of the best version of Fulham? Because their run of form hasn't been that good. But again, that's obviously a very small sample size. They have obviously injuries, as I mentioned before, like Joachim Andersen. Kenny will be injured for the game against us. There is another quite big injury, but I can't remember who it is. So do you think that we are going to be seeing the best version of Fulham?
I think so, because if you look at where we are and the things that we've done this season, I'd say, yeah, we've been probably one of the better sides this season, as the table would suggest as well. So I'm fully expecting Fulham to be at their best. But also, just one point about your theory, I'd say that about ourselves as well. Like the teams, the teams you've listed off are where we've dropped our points. So
we actually dropped points to all of them, to be fair.
Yeah, it's one of them things where what team's going to turn up, and you know, if Brighton look at this Fulham side and think, oh, we should be getting over the line quite easily, then we could be on the other end of it, if you know what I mean.
100%. It's a bit of a curious one because I think when we ran through our sort of where we thought we were going to get the points in the run into Christmas, I think I said a draw and you said a loss, or was that what it was?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to out you like that.
No, that's true.
But considering the result against Southampton, is a draw really actually going to be enough, do you think? Because I feel like the teams around us in the table I feel like they could make a little bit of we could fall a few places if we do drop points again. Do you think it's imperative that we win this game?
To be honest, I want to spin it back to you first because obviously you said a draw.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon?
Well, I said a draw based on beating Southampton. So now my theory has been pushed back because I said win against Bournemouth, which we did do, and then I said a win against Southampton, which we didn't do, and then I think obviously I said draw here. So I feel like the 2 points that we dropped against Southampton, we need it back in blood, basically. So unfortunately, that falls on Fulham. So I think you have to be. It's sort of to get into that sort of, especially this year, everyone's sort of a bit inconsistent around that sort of area. So I feel like there's, in reality, Liverpool, Man City, who are in awful form, Arsenal. This is not in order, but like Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea. I feel like that's sort of like they're going to be the ones who are the most consistent out of the 20. But then you have Aston Villa, Newcastle, ourselves, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham in that area. I'm not counting Man United. I just refuse. But like they could pick up points anywhere, but they could also drop points anywhere. So to be able to sort of stay ahead of that curve, and in reality, we should be aiming for Europa League because the Conference League is it 8th or no 7th, 6th?
Yeah, Conference League is 8th, depending on who wins the FA Cup and all that.
Oh, that nonsense. But yeah,
I think there might be more places this year.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that I think we're better than Conference League. Obviously, we'll take it, but I feel like we should be aiming for the Europa League places. We need to stay ahead of the curve while we can. While we're in that position, we need to take this Christmas run in to make a little bit of a gap for ourselves. So we do go for a tough run, then we still have like the chance for ourselves to sort of be in that position come May when the season ends. So I think it's imperative that we win this game, especially after quite a bad result.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And obviously we've said how well Fulham has started, but it's not an impossible mission to go there and win. And I know you said the stat that obviously we haven't won. Is it there or just beating them in general?
No, it's just in the Premier League in general.
Yeah, I think we're still good enough to go there and get 3 points. And especially after Southampton, I'll be looking for a better performance. And I know 100%. That's what all managers say as well, but all about the performance. But
yeah, it's true though. We have to expect something better than Southampton wasn't very good, was it? So
yeah, 100%. The result wasn't good and the performance wasn't good enough as well. So again, it'll be interesting to see if he does make Hertzer, the manager, does make any personnel changes or just anything stylistic that changes. But yeah, we can beat Fulham away. Let's be honest.
yeah, definitely, 100%. On that note, we are going to actually speak about Fulham in our next segment after you hear from a past version of myself on the ad read. So we will see you after the break where we'll talk a little bit more about Fulham and sort of the dangers that team has. This podcast is brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League as a whole, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day. And we are back on the Daily Brighton podcast. It's Joe Richardson as the host, and it is Bless Chibamba as he's not really a guest. He's also just as important as me in this, but he is with me currently. In this segment, Bless, we are going to talk a little bit about Fulham. And I'm going to open it up by saying they're probably one of the teams I think I might have watched the least this season. Off the top of my head, I think I watched the opening game against Manchester United, right? Was that?
Yeah.
I think I watched the opening game against Manchester United and I don't think I've seen them since. So I don't know masses about Fulham as compared to some other teams where I sort of can get a bit of a vibe. They sort of just seem to be vibing. Where do you think obviously they have Alex Iwobi, who's in great form. They have Emile Smith-Rowe. They have Reece Nelson, Adama Traore, Muniz, if you want to count him, Jimenez as well. where do you think the dangers in that Fulham side lie, and where do you think that sort of where do we need to be looking out for? Where are the key battles going to be?
Yeah, you've mentioned some of the sort of attacking players, and they are players to watch out for, especially Smith Rowe that has been in good form and started the season really well. But one player that comes to mind straight away, I think, and this might be a bit of an odd one, but Anthony Robinson at left back. Every time I've seen sort of Fulham goals or just clips of Fulham, it's him attacking, getting beyond Iwobi or Nelson, whoever's on that left hand side, and whipping crosses in for Jimenez, who is sort of coming back to his best slowly.
Somehow, it's like 35.
So I think, that's something to sort of be wary of. They're really strong in midfield. They've got some physical midfielders. Is it Sanderberg?
Sanderberg in there. Sasa Lukic. Kenny's obviously going to be suspended.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing one really important one.
Andres Pereira.
Andres Pereira. But I have quick fact. In the crossover pod, apparently Andres Pereira is Fulham's number one enemy at the moment. Apparently he was cussing them out. He said, what was it that he said? He said something. It was about wanting to. He tried to force a move to Marseille, apparently. Which probably says a little bit more about him than it does about Fulham. But he tried to force a move, and then he had some performances. Apparently, the chances created stat that he is like leading is basically all from set pieces, so you can't really judge it that much. But apparently, when the fans turn on him or think he needs to be dropped, he just puts in like a really good performance. So I don't know if he's available, but
I mean, we'll take that. Lack of harmony in the enemy camp. It's tunes to my ears. So that's good news, isn't it?
It's funny though, because I was sort of speaking about with the Daily Fulham chap, and he was essentially, we brought up Anthony Robertson because he was in the combined 11, and that was someone that I suggested personally, just because in the left back position for us, obviously Estupinan's there, but we've not really seen Estupiñán at his best this season. So Anthony Robertson has been doing it almost for like 3 seasons on a bounce here, but apparently he's added some. The attacking part of his game was something that was sort of highlighted because defensively he was a workhorse. I think he led the league in interceptions and like quite a lot of duels won as well. But one sort of position that I wanted to speak about is we often speak about our wide players, but I feel like their wide players could offer a little bit of a threat due to the fact that, I mean, Joel Veltman is, I don't think he's going to play. I think he's still injured. So the right back position, Tariq Lamptey, obviously slotted in there against Southampton. Don't know whether you thought his performance was good or whether it was bad, or obviously he set up the goal. But Tariq Lamptey there, I've seen some questions raised on Twitter about his defensive prowess. And then obviously on the other side, Kadioglu, I think Kadioglu won't be back. So obviously Estupiñán again, I imagine. But Adama Traore and Alex Iwobi, or if it's Reece Nelson on that side, I think that they could cause a big danger to the 2 fullbacks, especially on Tariq Lamptey's side. Wherever Adama Traore is, there's chaos. So do you think that will be a battle that can be won for us, or is it something that we're going to have to keep an eye on and try and contain?
Yeah, I think, in terms of our fullbacks, their 1v1 defending is pretty horrific at times. So
that's so brutal. It's true.
Well, I didn't know what else to say except from be honest. So what I'd probably like to see is maybe having 2 number 6s and then getting someone to come and support. I think
double up.
Doubling up essentially. I think our wingers work pretty hard and they'll be happy to come back as well. So we've got to just double up, trip him up, Adama, before he gets into speed. And then hopefully, we just hope he's got his big size 12s on when he's shooting. because I've seen some of his 1v1s.
Yeah, it's not great. That end product is sort of is a little bit shaky, to be honest with you. One thing that playing devil's advocate here, one thing that I think we could struggle with actually going on to the sort of wide players, if we do decide to double up, I'm a bit worried about the sort of space that will leave Smith Rowe, because Emil Smith Rowe, I think, is a very unlucky footballer in terms of, I think that if you look at the Arsenal team, I still think he could have probably done a job. Now that he's got back up to fitness, I don't think he's had any injury issues this season, which is very weird considering how bad it was before. But I think he's in there is a very special talent who needs to, as good as he is, I still think he needs to sort of make that jump to sort of like the next level where it's a bit more consistent in terms of your output and sort of the performances that you're getting. A couple of big performances against big clubs would obviously do that as well. But if he's given enough space, I feel like he's a threat he's like a sort of a two-way threat in terms of creating chances and also scoring himself. So I'm a bit worried that if we do double up on those wide positions, because the 2 sixes will be gone, and I'm not expecting João Pedro to come back and slot in there to take him. Like I am a bit worried about that sort of space that is left there. So that's why I highlighted the 1v1, because if you don't have a choice really other than the centre back covering. So obviously the right back will go with the right back of the other team, and then the centre back will have to take there. But again, spaces open up everywhere, and I am a little bit worried that if they can't win those 1v1 duels, and we do have to double up, that it's going to create space elsewhere on the pitch. And I personally think that that's why where they could hurt us the most, because once you get the ball into those players, I think that's when trouble starts. But I am interested to see what happens. But alas, we are going to go on to our third and final segment after you hear from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And we are back for the third and final segment of the Daily Brighton podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network, with the one and only Blessed Shabamba and yours truly, Joseph Richardson. Let's talk about Brighton. Where are we going to kill them in this game on Thursday? Where are some sort of key battles and locations where you think that we could do some damage?
Yeah, I think I've highlighted Calvin Bassey. I genuinely just think... Why are you laughing already?
You said because I've said, where do you think we're going to hurt them and some key battles are? And then you've gone, I've highlighted, and I thought you were going to say one of our players, but then you said Calvin Bassey. So obviously you think he's dog.
Your words, not mine. Yeah, I've highlighted him, and I just think you can get at him. I think he will not enjoy anyone running at him with pace. And Ruto, so Calvin Bassey is left centre back. Ruto sort of operates in that area, and he's got pace, he's got power. So I think that's a nice battle. I think we should be winning. Mm-hmm. If Ruto gets him 1-on-1, I back him to sort of get past him.
Yeah.
Another battle, I think Tete and Matoma as well. I think Matoma should get the better of him, especially if he's trying to bomb forward and help Adama, because Adama needs all the help in the world.
You've actually cussed out for like 3 players here, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
With all due respect, though. So
yeah, respectfully. No, I do agree. I'll tell you someone who doesn't agree. Over at Daily Fulham, they actually highlighted Kenny Tete as. I'll be honest, they've tried to whack him in a combined 11. And I've I don't know what's going on.
You shut it down, surely.
Well, I shut it down, and then he just went, yeah, I was going to go to Kenny Tete. And I was like, I don't think he understood that we needed to like agree on it. So it was just like his combined 11 and my combined 11 rather than like our combined 11. And he did say this will probably make you laugh. So Joachim Andersen's out injured, and I said to him, I was like, we can't have injured players in our combined 11. That's sort of like our rule that we've done. So I've said, who's the options? And he's come to me with an offer that is such a throwback. He goes, yeah, so Calvin Bassey's been decent like since this season. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, don't lie to me. Don't do that. And then he then goes, what did he say? He was like, yeah, Issa Diop has done well when he stepped in. I creased it, mate. I was crazy. It's a Diop, mate.
See that double centre back, Calvin Bassey and Issa Diop. You gotta get at them. You got to get at them.
It's a Diop. I couldn't believe my ears, mate. I actually couldn't. Apparently, he's doing well as well. But the thing is, like, I can't say anything because I don't watch Fulham. Yeah, so, like, I have to give them. I have to basically take their word for it because obviously they watch them week in, week out. But like, just based on what I know about Issa Diop, like, you're not moving me with the shout of Issa Diop, especially like over like Van Hecker or anything like that. Like, we just can't have that at all. But yeah, I agree. We always say that the width is sort of like where it is. One thing that I actually want to sort of roll it back a little bit, because before Southampton, we said about Matoma, me and you agreed that Matoma needs to start adding some little end product now, because the performances are there, but the sort of output isn't really there. And I said, I want to see him doing the out to in run. Lo and behold, the out to in run where he scored against Bournemouth, loved it. But then again, he's run past Sugawara. I think it was Sugawara anyway. Yeah. And he's obviously headed it in. I don't know who he thinks he is doing that. I didn't know he had that in his bag, to be honest with you. But obviously, I love to see it. I want to see it more and more because, again, it is the hardest thing to defend. And once you make that run, you've just blindsided your fullback. And also, the centre-back probably doesn't know you're there either. And with, like you said about the centre-backs, I'd like to add to that I would like to see that guy Welbs sort of pulling them out of position, because he's so good at that, because he's a focal point. So the ball goes into him. Normally, a defender's going to follow him, or a defender's going to try and deny that pass in there by being in the close proximity of him. So I would like him to I want to see basically a carbon copy of the goal against Bournemouth. And I think that we can do that because I believe that Senesi and Zibani are better centre-back partnership than Calvin Bassett and Issa Diop. So I feel like the chance is there to be able to move them around and manipulate them so spaces open up for the wide players, rather than the wide players just sort of getting on the ball. It's all good if they can get on the ball and dribble, but the off-ball movement is what makes you a killer as a winger. So that's something that I would very much like to see. Before we sign off, is there anywhere else where you're sort of looking at as a key battle?
Yeah, I think the midfield, we've sort of touched on it, the midfield as well, and how we sort of deal with Emile Smith-Rowe. Mm-hmm. And what I actually wanted to ask in the last segment is, do you think it might be a time where we might have to do a job on him and stick Belieber in him for the game?
What we're talking about, Ander Herrera job?
Yeah, Ander Herrera Hazard, follow him to the toilet kind of vibe.
I feel like you can go one or two ways. You can either he gets the ball and Belieber hits him, so he knows that he can't just get the ball and do whatever he wants. And then you can sort of just you need to be around him. But I don't really know it would only be Belieber who I would trust doing that, because Matt O'Reilly felt like in the game against Southampton, he looked a little bit lost. Obviously a class player in there, and it's also so early doors. But I wouldn't trust someone like Matt O'Reilly to just be stuck on him, running around after him. Whereas Belieber, I feel like he can do that. The only issue is with Belieber doing that is that if Emile Smith-Rowe beats him once, Belieber's going to foul him. And if Belieber picks up a card, the last time Belieber picked up a card, he stamped on Moises Kirkis.
He literally doesn't care.
He doesn't care at all. So I feel like it's worth. I always feel like it's better to deny the entry into the pass, which obviously that would do. But like, it's better to sort of maybe even like sort of coax the ball to a different area away from where he is. I'm saying it like he's Lionel Messi. But like, I would like to see something like that. I don't want to see him getting hella touches like 5 yards outside the box, because that's when we're going to get killed, isn't it? So I would like to see him get clamped, personally. That's just what I sort of like. That's a personal preference. But yeah, I do think you're right. It's definitely Belabor and Smith Rowe, and how that sort of dynamic works, I think, is going to be a big part in sort of the outcome of the game. So, that being said, Bless, score predictions.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 Brighton.
Right. I lied in crossover podcast, said 3-2, because in every crossover podcast I say 3-2. So obviously for our fans at Daily Brighton, I will give you what I actually think, which is exclusive. This is exclusive. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win. Danny Welbeck knee slide. Come on.
I'd like to hear.
Come on. Okay. So I have been your host, Joe Richardson. I've been joined by Bless Jabamba. Bless, sign off for us, please.
Yep. The Danny Welbeck enjoyer signing off now.
And if you can run this up on all social media, message Amazon on social media, tell them to hit me up. I don't know where my socials are. I don't think my socials are actually anywhere to do.
They're down here.
Yeah. Down below there. Now I have to put that in the show notes, which is really annoying. And yeah, run it up on everything. Let us know how you think the game's going to go. Let us know your score predictions. We love hearing from you. We love replying. Thank you for that 120k on TikTok. We see you. We love that. We'll run those numbers up immediately again. And we will see you very soon. Thank you for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.